Comedy. Not interrupting each other. Bad improv. Monsters. Long ago, the four elements of good podcasting lived together in harmony. Then, everything changed when the Bad Improv Nation attacked. Only Adam and Allie, masters of all four elements, could stop them. But when the world needed them most, they vanished. A global pandemic happened, and my cousin and I started a new podcast, a show about monsters called Finding Monster Right. And although our podcasting skills are great, we have a lot to learn before we're ready to save anyone. But I believe Finding Monster Right can save the world.
Welcome to Finding Avatar Right. Show about finding the Avatar, right?
Right.
I'm your airbender Adam.
I'm Allie. My own mother called me a monster. She was right, of course, but it still hurts. 4 years, 6 months, we've created a monster. Don't kill that fly, Mommy. Let's catch it and set it free. That was a excerpt from my baby book that I took a picture of to talk to my therapist about. Anyway, Azula.
Yeah, we're talking about one of our favorite Avatar characters.
One of our favorite Avatar characters.
Not the blue ones.
Yes, good, not blue. Well, she's kind of blue.
She's got a lot of blue energy to her.
Yeah, the blue fire, the
By
lightning.
energy, I mean fire, I guess, you know.
The name.
Azu. Oh, huh. You think they... Wait a second.
Azula is the original Bluey.
I was gonna say, do you think they named her before or after they decide she gets blue fire? We're talking about Avatar: Last Airbender, a show we love. You should watch if you haven't already. Everyone's watched it by now. They've seen the live action and complained about it.
Yeah. Not a lot of Azula in the live action one, and that's what the problem was. That was the only one.
Actually, there's too much for season 1.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
We'll talk about it in a moment. In regular Avatar canon, Azula's adventures have continued past the events of the series in the comics.
Yes. Why don't we describe who Azula is? So,
yeah, let's get into a little Azula Oblongata. And don't go to the spirit world for therapy.
I forgot that we hadn't said the title yet because I fucking...
Well, we gotta drop the title. All right, but yes, let's talk about her for the uninitiated.
I had my shovel. I dug a hole. I put a landmine in it. I covered it up. I put the shovel down. I walked directly over it. Do. Anyway, yeah, Azula Oblongata. Don't go to the spirit world for therapy. So Azula is a character in Avatar: The Last Airbender, show we love, and if you haven't seen it, watch it.
So, Fire Lord Ozai had 2 children. Zuko, the banished prince who was seeking out the Aang, the Avatar, throughout the first season. And the big reveal at the end of the season is that, he's got a sister, and she's going after the Avatar too.
And that sister's name is Azula.
Yes.
Yeah. She has yellow eyes, as do most of the Fire Nation royal family and nobility.
How would you describe her hairstyle? She's got like those fang bangs.
Unclear about if I like the word fang bang or not. I would describe it as symmetrical and meticulous.
Okay.
Meticulously symmetrical, even.
Meticulously symmetrical hair. And she is a firebending prodigy.
Yes. Famously, her hair is a visual kind of metaphor for her mental state. You know, she's a prodigy. She's extremely type A to a scary point. It's like she's extremely Machiavellian. She is the world's most Machiavellian 14-year-old.
Right. And she is a stone-cold, ruthless killer.
Yes. Yeah. She's calculating. She's scheming. And she ends the series, after many a scheme. And schemes including
toppling the Earth Kingdom.
Toppling the Earth Kingdom, basically killing the main character of the show on the same network where SpongeBob and Camp Lazlo live. Is Camp Lazlo, is that right? That might be
Cartoon
right.
Network.
Oh, okay. Well, same time slot at least.
Yeah, right. You could if you hit the wrong button on your remote, you'll start watching Camp Lazlo as Aang gets shot by lightning.
Yeah, like I'm reading the comics and it's like I'll treat Zuko as if he were the son of a treacherous dog. And I'm like, this shit simply does not happen to Squidward. I'm sorry. Like
yes, but she has a sword scheme. She has two loyal ladies by her side, Mei and Tai Li, who I think the fandom has done a really good job analyzing their relationship. Because once they see kind of how wrong Azula is and turn against her, her whole world starts to unfurl.
Yeah, I think that's not the cause of her mental anguish, but certainly the catalyst.
The catalyst for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, the rest of her, it's the catalyst to let her parent issues start to crush her.
Yes, her father decides that he's going to be Phoenix King of all the Earth, and that she will be Fire Lord in his stead, and before her coronation, she sees a hallucination of her mother in a mirror, and her mother, Ursa, the backstory is she was a descendant of Avatar Roku who was plucked out of, like, the peasantry, essentially, and abducted into the royal family, basically. Completely legally, of course. So she became the Fire Lord's wife. After Iroh's son, Lieutenant, died. I can't go into this whole thing. Can I?
Yeah. I don't think it's important. She had a strained relationship with her mother.
Yes, yeah. Essentially, Ursa and Ozai, her mother and father, respectively, taught very opposite perspectives on life and different values. They were not good at co-parenting because Ozai was particularly abusive and just really shitty.
Yeah, Ozai big on turning his kids into basically perfect soldiers.
Yes.
Where Ursa, I think, a more traditional loving parenting route. It kind of went that Zuko more favored Ursa and Ozai more Azula.
Mercy is for the weak, and like, be strong, be powerful, rule over everyone as is your birthright, and rule through fear, etc., blah, blah, blah.
And through Ozai's scheme, he coerced Ursa to, regicide, kill the Azula, the old Fire Lord, get banished, and leave before any of these issues could be resolved.
As a matter of fact, it's not Ozai who made that scheme.
It's not?
No, so... Okay, this is a good inroad to what I was saying before. So, their uncle... So, Ozai's older brother, Iroh, who becomes Uncle Iroh once, I guess...
That's his first name.
Yeah. That's how uncleship works. Iroh was this general who was, particularly traditional for the post Sozin kind of Fire Nation. He was very militant. He was a general in the 100 Years' War. He led a 600-day siege of the Earth Kingdom capital, Ba Sing Se. And then Iroh's son, Lu Ten, died, and his spirit broke, essentially. Mm-hmm. And this led him to be the much more mentally healthy character. The most mentally healthy character in the Fire Nation, maybe the most mentally healthy character in the show, maybe the most mentally healthy character in all of fiction. As like...
Right, yeah.
So, Iroh being the older brother, like, he was meant to be, like, his birthright was to be the next in line to be the Fire Lord. Mm-hmm. So, Ozai went to his and Iroh's father, Azulon, for which Azula is named, and said, hey, Iroh is weak because he's sad because his son is dead. And, which, like, what a pussy. For
right.
Basically, because he's a bad man, and he's like my dad. I didn't say that part. And
Azulan's response is, you wouldn't be so happy if your son died, would you?
In fact, kill Zuko. That is the price for your insolence. And Ozai was like, all right, cool. I loved that idea. That's my favorite thing to do. Like, this was not a punishment that was ever gonna work.
Right. I've been waiting for you to say this for a long time.
Yeah. Oh boy, here I go killing again. Here I go.
But so it
You're
sounds
lucky
like
I hate my son so much. It's that vine.
Yeah, right. But Ursa is the one that comes up with the scheme then.
Yes? Because, specifically, Azula overhears this conversation between her father and her grandfather, and she bursts into Zuko's room and says,
Dad's going to kill you. Really, he is.
That is shown in the episode, in the show. And in the comics, it shows, because, that scene is told from Zuko's perspective. So in the comics, it shows afterwards, in that scene, where Ursa takes Azula aside and is like, what happened? What did you hear? And Azula's like, I heard something saying that that grandfather was going to make Dad kill Zuko. And I'm worried for Zuko. Oh no. Like really playing that up. And then Ursa's like, okay, I'll talk to your father about this. And then Azula goes away, and this 8-year-old child just has this satisfied smile on her face that we've seen a million times before. Like she's scheming from that early.
Dang.
Because she's embracing Ozai's values of totalitarianism essentially. And Ursa keeps trying to be a normal parent to her and be like, Azula, go to your room and think about what you did. And then she goes to her room and thinks I did a great job. What the fuck is she talking about?
Thinks about war.
Yeah, exactly. And so Ursa proposes to Ozai and says, you're gonna kill Zuko about it. And Ozai's like, yes, but I can be merciful, etc., blah, blah, blah. And Ursa's like, okay, don't do that. And in exchange, I can give you something. And he's like, what could you give me? I hate women because I'm Fire Lord Ozai, blah. And then she's like, I know how to make a colorless, odorless poison. I can give you the throne.
Mm-hmm.
And then that allows Ozai to slip Azulan the poison so that the throne becomes vacant, and Iroh, still too devastated, doesn't contest Ozai's claim to the throne.
Mm-hmm.
Because, at this point, if Azulan dies, Iroh's in no state to be like, well, time to completely change my life to be the head of state of a country.
Yeah, it's kind of the perfect time to strike and take the position.
And Ozai's like, okay, but in exchange, listen, you hate me. So you have to get out of the capital city and never see your children again. Because otherwise, that colorless, odorless poison is coming for me next. I'm not stupid. He is. And...
right, so that banishment was to protect him.
Yes.
To cover up his tracks, too.
And so Ursa goes back to the peasant village of Hira'au, where she is from. And I guess all villages are peasant villages, if you break it down, really.
That's the kind of definition of a village.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of basis of that relationship and why they never fix things.
Yeah. And so then eventually Zuko speaks up in a strategy meeting, and because he said something that was contrary to an idea that Ozai had just offhandedly, Ozai decides to engage in Agni Kai with his son, who he knows is a worse firebender than him, and scar him across the eye and banish him from the fucking realm until he finds the Avatar, which is a snipe hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And then later, a season into his efforts, he sends Azula afterwards because it's oh shit, the Avatar's actually real.
Let's get serious about this.
Yeah, let's send out the person who is actually good at things instead of my fucking idiot son who's bad because I'm Ozai and I hate my son and women. Let's keep a running tally. Everyone except myself, maybe?
He also thinks Zhao was a clown show.
What does he like? I hate my dad. I hate Ozai, I mean. What? Huh? No. They're different. My dad doesn't have that beard. Anyway,
I think we gotta get into Azula herself.
Yes, okay, so Ozai is defeated by Aang
Mhm.
at the end of the show.
Right.
And spoilers for Avatar if you haven't seen it, but you have, because we told you to at the beginning of the episode, and we've been talking for long enough that you could have watched all of Avatar by now.
Several times.
Yeah,
Several times. It's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix. Don't even worry about it. Just pirate it. Just buy a DVD. Just, like, go to a millennial and ask them to explain their tattoos. That's how you fucking watch Avatar.
Yeah, listen, as someone that watched it the first time it came out, I also pirated episodes because they came out on Canadian DVDs before they were released here. Like, it is the way. But the series ends, Ozai is defeated by Aang, and Azula is defeated by Zuko in an Agni Kai.
And Katara.
And Katara, yes. Well, okay. During the fight, Azula breaks the Agni Kai, officially losing it. This kind of honor match of firebenders by targeting Katara, who is not in the fight.
Yes, yeah. And
proving that she has no honor in compared to Zuko, who rebuilt his own honor.
This is after her complete psychotic break where all her mommy and daddy issues really come to the fore and just she shatters into a million pieces.
Yeah, after banishing her handmaiden, goes to cut her own hair. And it's all askew.
She gives herself crazy Karen bangs.
Crazy Karen bangs. Which I will say I'm very disappointed her look in the comics doesn't reflect that in any way. I thought if there's ever like a catalyst for changing your hairstyle, that would be it. But now she's back to the fang bangs.
It changes throughout, I would say. But, I mean, they maintain that, though. They really do maintain, like, if Azula's in, like, a standard, like, perfectionist, like, villain Azula state, it's the bangs with the little, like, kind of ponytail things on the side.
Yeah. And it talks a little bit about her status in the comics, too. It's funny. This is, we're not usually witnessing this because we come in, like, I don't know, 50, 60 years into, like, Batman or Spider-Man or something like that. We're like, oh yeah, this thing has been done and undone so many times. We're kind of... Avatar is a young franchise. It's only, like, 19 years old.
Yeah.
So we get to see it fall into, like, these comic tropes where it's like, alright, this character's alive, she's active in the world again, and what does that mean for her? And she kind of gets locked into this comic canon where it's like, she can be, like, a little naughty. She can have little stories and stuff like that, but she's not going to shake the world in a major way.
Yes.
But you know more about that than I do.
Crucially, at the end of the series, of the cartoon, neither Azula nor Ozai are killed.
Yeah, right.
They're defeated. They are variously... Ozai is stripped of his bending and can no longer firebend and is locked up and imprisoned. Azula, meanwhile, is not imprisoned. She's sent to an asylum. She's sent to an institution.
Correct.
She has a straitjacket. She really has the crazy hair and the crazy eyes going when she first shows up in the search.
Oh, great. Yes, the crazy hair.
Yes. No, they maintain that. Like,
I've got a lot of takes on Avatar character hair. It's weird. Throughout the series, hair is used and changed and, like, altered to show the characters growing and changing. Season 2 Zuko, his hair changes every episode. It's a different length. They, like, kind of takes great strides to do that. And then, like, when later on the characters show up in Korra, they're just like, oh yeah, back to our season 1 default hairstyles for everybody.
And that's why The Legend of Korra is bad.
In real life, you see people change so much. My hairstyle doesn't look anything like it was when I was 12.
Honestly, what the fuck is my hair even doing? The important point is that Zuko, I forget the precise reason why, but he decides to search for Ursa, which is a famous, it's not resolved over the course of the series, like what happened to Zuko and Azula's mother. And
that's a cliffhanger ending.
Yes. So the search begins, and I forget what the inciting incident is, but Zuko decides to try and talk to Ozai about her, and Ozai doesn't fucking give anything, because, obviously. And because he's bad. And
because we gotta fill these pages with something.
And so it's like, okay, we got to bring in Azula. So because he'll talk to her. So he brings Azula straitjacketed up into Ozai's cell, and they have a conversation, which we're not privy to. But then, as he's wheeling Azula straitjacketed and in a wheelchair because she's straitjacketed, not that she's not mobile, or not that she's not ambulatory or anything like that, but as he's wheeling her back to her old room, kept under heavy guard rather than the institution. Like, Zuko's a good boy, but she escapes out of there. She got chi blocked, and so she just takes advantage of the momentary, like, extra flexibility to just, like, wiggle her way out of the straitjacket, shoots a lightning bolt, runs off to this secret storehouse with a box full of every letter that Ursa wrote back to her peasant village, and she just takes one of them out, keeps it to herself, burns the rest, as Zuko watches.
Yeah, that's pretty mean.
Yep. And well, I won't give away everything that happens in the search, but basically, they find her in the old village. They find out that she went to the Mother of Faces. We
talked about the co-episode.
Yes, we talked about the Mother of Faces in the co-episode. Go back and listen to that one if you fucking absolutely feel the need to listen to everything we do. And, God, I just love Allie so much. No one is like that. And I can't possibly believe that anyone is like that, because when I was 4 years old, I just wouldn't let my mom kill a fucking fly. Donna. God. Anyway, so she got a new identity, a new face, and, like, a mind wipe from the Mother of Faces, basically. And at the end of the search, that is more or less undone. Azula joins the search to find Ursa because, like, you know, it's her mom too, basically. And at the end of that, she storms off. She says, "Even when you're strong, Zuzu, you're weak." And storms off. We next see Zuko and Ursa and Zuko's half-sister, Zuko's stepdad, who is fine. He's cool. And Zuko's half-sister, Kiyi.
What if his stepdad's like, "I'm the Fire Lord now"?
That'd be really funny.
"I'm the dad that stepped up to rule the nation."
I'm the dad who stepped up, and you will all be the ones who kneel down. So, they return to the Fire Nation capital, all in all. Ursa has this whole arc of, like, just dramatically taking a first step back into the palace. You're just like, things are different now. Sees a huge tapestry of Ozai that's still up for some fucking reason. God damn it.
She hears the fucking three horns. It's like, oh god.
Yeah. So, Azula's, like, in the wind, basically. They don't know what's up with her. They looked in the valley for weeks and couldn't find her. And then we start getting reports of this intersection of the new Ozai Society, which is this society that's supposed to try and overthrow Zuko and reinstate Ozai as Fire Lord, because when Ozai was Fire Lord, everybody was strong and safe. It's very nationalist coded. It's nationalist is what it is. And
well, I like that too, because it's like, but wait a second, there was a comet that arrived when he was the Fire Lord.
So then if that happens, then
wait, everyone, all firebenders were 100 times stronger because of this natural phenomenon. This wasn't his doing. There isn't one, like, weatherman Fire Nation.
Well, they're nationalists.
Person.
They're not smart people.
Yeah, I guess so.
So, a number of kidnappings occur by these figures called the Kimurakage, who are these masked and hooded and cloaked spirits that unleash a lot of smoke. Kimurakage literally means smoke shadow in Japanese. And, it's like, this is a boogeyman. We thought this was a made-up spirit that we just made up to get kids to behave, like a don't go in the woods monster, as we talk about all the time.
Yeah. And this is the part where we start foaming at the mouth, because it's like, God, great, we can talk about it on the show.
Yes.
Spirits, yes, we're in.
Exactly, yeah. So, blah, 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 kidnappings happen, the new Ozai Society, riots in the streets, like, it's fear-mongering. And Zuko kind of cracks down on, like, okay, we need curfews for everybody, we need a task force to fight these dark spirits, and all that stuff, and becomes kind of increasingly authoritarian and starts ruling through fear. And then, like, at some point, spoilers for The Search, or spoilers for Smoke and Shadow, but read Smoke and Shadow, they figure out that, like, the Kimurakage spoken of in legend are not this, like, don't match the MO of what they're doing now. And it's like, what's up with that? Maybe they're not spirits after all. And in the next confrontation with them, one of them shoots a lightning bolt. And it's like, fuck. I know who these are.
Well, there's only 3 people in the world that can do this right now.
Yeah, so it's Azula, and
What-
what she's done is, after having her confrontation with the Mother of Faces, and after having her confrontation with her mother, Ursa, she's no longer having hallucinations of Ursa and imagining that she's puppeteering every negative thing that ever happens to her in her life. But now her kind of modus operandi is, have I used that word twice? Sure. Is, okay, my destiny is not the throne. My destiny is to turn my dear brother Zuzu into, got a little Eartha Kitt. She is kind of Eartha Kitt voiced a bit, but
I do notice that in the comics she drops a lot more Zuzus than in the show.
I mean, it is fun.
Listen, Zuzu's great, don't get me wrong.
Yeah. So, I'm going to shape Zuzu into the Fire Lord that I would have been. And then, in a sense, I'll be Fire Lord again.
I see. It's kind of a, like a moral victory.
Yes, yeah.
She's trying to, like, Joker gets Zuko Batman to kill.
Yes, 100% like that, yeah.
Alright, great.
And so, I'm pretty sure Zuko has killed before. But,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
not literally. It's like, but instead of murder, it's authoritarianism. Because this Nickelodeon cartoon is more mature than Batman. Fuck yourself.
So yeah, I see. She's trying to win by morally.
Yeah. So, which is an odd goal for her. So, the Kimurakage scheme kind of falls apart, as her schemes often do. And her cohorts, who are people who she broke out of the same institution she was locked in.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of, like, Fire Nation, like, young women of nobility who were, like, too rebellious and got locked up in the institution to learn respect, quote unquote. Like, basically using this institution as punishment for individuality, as a way to enforce conformity rather than to encourage mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So she takes her co-patients out of that, and they become the fire warriors who, like, don this Kimurakage thing going on. And then after that scheme fails, they just kind of carry out a bunch of terroristic attacks throughout the Fire Nation. Which, this leads us into the story of Azula and the Spirit Temple. 2 hours and 30 minutes in. It's 33 minutes. It's not as bad as I said. But anyway. So, they attack a granary. It turns out to be a trap that Ty Lee set with some guards. And they capture one of the fire warriors, who is Chiyu, who does show up in the animated show.
Mm-hmm.
And basically another one of the fire warriors, Zirin, is like, we gotta go back for Chiyu and figure out, like, how to get her back. And then Azula's like, we're not going to. She knew the risks when she signed up to join the military. My military. The only one that matters. And it's like...
showing that even amongst her peers, there's more humanity than there is in Azula.
Absolutely, as is normally the case. She's a manipulator. She's a puppeteer. She's a mastermind rogue, to use a real-world example.
Which is, it's tough because she is this kind of mastermind to the extent that, like, she doesn't catch herself making this mistake.
Mm.
Like, she still has that kind of Achilles heel, that flaw, that she cares more about this than realizing that, like, oh, shit, if I'm mean to these people, then they will abandon me.
Yeah. Well, she has a very difficult time understanding other people's emotional state because for her, like, every emotion is a performance to try and get other people to do something.
Right, and in order to be a friend of hers, you have to be fully obedient to her.
Yes, because she's a leader. She is Fire Nation royalty, and therefore her birthright is to be in charge of everybody.
Mm-hmm. She has the... go on.
So she reminds Zirin that, I pulled you out of that institution, so you don't get to decide what you want. I decide what you want, and what you want is to continue our reign of terror against that weakling on the throne, my dear brother Zuzu.
Which is, again, it's funny kind of comic stakes here. Because it's like, oh yeah, it's like, he's Firelord Zuko. The comics aren't gonna, like, undo this. So it's like, alright, we will be a thorn in his side. Our revenge, thorn-sized. Come, sisters, be my thorns.
Yeah. It's like they're writing us fictional story and not real. What do you want from that?
I'm laughing at the scope of it. It's like, you have to do what I want to do. What's that? Irritate.
Well, yeah, that's the idea.
Go on.
So they go to bed that night in the camp, and after Azula chews out her subordinates, and when she wakes up, they've all fucking left.
Yeah, just the tent by itself.
It turns out that, like, as long as Azula's not personally there to kill you, there's not a whole lot she can do. Like, if you're her only cops, she doesn't have anyone she can send after you.
It's kind of funny, too. She gets, the same tactic that she employed when she was, in the chase when she's following around Team Avatar. Taking advantage of their sleeplessness.
Oh.
She got caught sleeping herself.
That's a good bookend. So she finds the camp empty. She's like, those traitors, I'll make them pay. And then she's just like walking around the woods, like tracking down footprints, like pulling on little scraps of fabric that are caught in the trees that are like red cloak fabric. And it's like, I'll make them pay. I'll make them pay. I'll make them pay. They'll see. They'll all see. Oh God. And it's been like hours and hours of looking for them. And eventually it starts raining. She just like pulls up her hood and she finds a mysterious, weird little fire sage temple, which is weird because she didn't recall seeing that fire sage temple on the street there yesterday.
Smells like spirits.
Yum.
Avatar, a dichotomous world where there's both human activity and the spirit world and their various doings.
Yes. Yeah, so she heads into the temple because she needs a hot meal and a place to sleep and to get out of the storm. And she finds a solitary monk who says, like, this is a place of refuge for the weary. And she's, like, in the middle of a forest where no one would ever find it.
She's like, I must be Azula in the Spirit Temple.
Yeah.
The name of this comic, which is also, you shared this with me, it's a live comic on YouTube that someone's kind of brought to life.
Yeah. Hey, actually, is that allowed?
Let's say that it's allowed today. And not question it.
I mean, like, it is the entire comic, just kind of not...
If you want to read the comic that we're about to talk about, you can watch it briefly for 24 minutes.
If you want to read the comic that we're talking about, go to your friendly local comic store and purchase a copy.
Or go to Barnes & Noble and just, like, sit in one of those chairs for about an hour.
Or purchase a copy at your friendly local comic store. Because this is a property we want to support.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like... They're not gonna, like, if you it's like pirating it's like pirating a Marvel movie. Like, don't worry about it.
I want to recall back to 30 minutes ago when you said, if you can't see Avatar on Netflix, pirate it.
I was a different person back then, Zuzu. So, my psychosis is growing. I start calling you. I actually really do like calling you Zuzu, and I think I'm going to keep doing that.
So, in the spirit temple, who's the spirits that Azula encounters? What's their moves? What's their first things that they do?
So, this monk just says, like, sleep here for the night, it'll be good, etc., blah, blah, blah. This is a place of rest for those who have lost their way. And she's like, I haven't lost my way. That's crazy. Who would lose their way? That's dumb. Zirin, she lost her way. I'm doing well. And,
the comic goes on for 4 pages of Azula. Listing people that have lost their way that are not her.
Yeah. So, So, the monk is like, okay, here, just, I have one bedroll you can sleep on. And she's like, what about that room? That's my room. This is a temple for the weary. You're going to keep the only room for yourself? That's selfish. Which is like grade A manipulation. And the monk is like, yes, okay, fine. So she lies down, and she wakes up, and she sees her firebending tutors, Lee and Lo, and she's on her family's house on Ember Island, and she opens the door, and she sees everybody who's ever loved her, including Ursa and Zulon, like her granddad, Iroh, and Ozai, and an unburnt Zuko. And, like, this guy she had a crush on once in the series is there. And also there's this other guy next to Fire Lord Azulon who I don't know who he is. And, here, Adam, maybe you know.
That's Sozin.
Oh, that's Sozin? How does he even know her?
That's a good question.
I mean, I guess it's just because she is the prettiest and best Fire Lord there has ever been. TM?
Mm-hmm.
And Sozin, king of kings and lord of lords, is like, yep. It's like basically seeing like smiling white Jesus giving you a thumbs up.
Yeah, no, it's like, well, Jesus does that. He goes around, he's like, yes, Abraham, thank you for greeting me.
Yeah, Sozin being the Fire Lord who 100 years ago started the 100 Years' War, and so he's like their George Washington and also their Buddha and also their Jesus, except he was a war guy. So more like George Washington than the other two, really.
I think Azula's more into Sozin than Azulon. Just, throwing out some headcanon here.
Well, yes, because Azulon was old when Azula met him. So, therefore he's weak, and therefore he is not worth anything.
Yeah, he just made his gates, his famous gates, that's it.
Yes. So, anyway, she starts to question this reality because everybody that she loves is saying, like, you killed the Avatar, and you conquered Ba Sing Se, and you ended the 100-Year War, and you became the Fire Lord, and isn't that great, Azula? And she's like, that's not what happened, but also, this is great, and I'm not sure if I should question it. And then her mom's like, Azula, I'm proud of you. And then, like, over in the corner, she hears May and Ty Lee going, like, this isn't real, you know that, right? Like, you told us that your mother said you were a monster. And Zula's like, shut up. And then, like, eventually just yells at them, and the dream falls apart. She wakes up, and the monk is like, the dreams didn't give you peace. You have to leave the temple now. And she tries to leave the temple, and then, like, she gets lost in the mist, ends up at the front door of the temple again. Which kind of indicates that the temple and the monk are not working together here.
Yeah, it's a little at odds. Clearly that the spirit wants to get a rise out of Azula, right?
What do you mean, the spirit? Anyway, so Azula goes back into the temple and finds the monk on her knees going like, it's all wrong, it's all gone wrong. And it's like, what is this place? This is a place of refuge for the weary. And then Azula's like, it's some kind of trap. She's trying to fight her way out. And she finds a burned turtle duck on the ground. A burned wooden turtle duck.
Mm-hmm. Turtle duck, a symbol of her relationship with her younger self.
Yes. So she flashes back to the first time she was firebending, which is Ursa caught her firebending and burning this little wooden turtle duck toy, which Ozai is over the moon about, and is like, Ursa, tell your daughter that you're proud of her. Tell her. And Ursa's like, you're your father's daughter, Azula, but doesn't actually say that she's proud of her.
What's the next vision?
Azula rejects the vision again, because she realizes that that's not literally what happened. And the monk is like, I'm just trying to give you what you want. And Azula's like, what makes you think that's what I wanted? Her hair is also more out of place than normal, because she did just wake up out of, bed. And the monk...
Yeah, so at the moment, the monk is starting to sound very much like a Twilight Zone style character here.
Turns to her with fangs starting to grow in her top and bottom canines, her eyes becoming red and yellow in a more and more inhuman way, and says, isn't your greatest desire to be loved and embraced by your family? Why can't you just accept what is offered? Azula realizes that this isn't a monk, this is some kind of spirit. And at this point, the spirit grows like claws and like hands on its feet and long arms and legs and hisses and its eyes glow red, the fangs grow bigger, it jumps up on the ceiling and just like goes in the corner like a Babadook.
Yeah, it starts to get kind of full spider mode.
Because as we didn't know until now, this monk was a spirit the whole time, Adam.
This monk is now some kind of madam in her web. Up top on the ceiling.
Yes. So Azula says that she doesn't need anything from her family. They're all traitors except for Ozai, who is a pathetic shadow of his former self. His bending is gone, taken by the Avatar, leaving her as the only one to claim the throne. At that point, after they talk a bit, Ty Lee comes in. It's unclear. It's honestly... I don't think we even know if this is just another spirit vision of Ty Lee, or if this is actually Ty Lee coming in.
Yeah, I assume from the ending this is all spirit visions. But it's they don't do a good job unraveling that. Maybe it's intentional. Maybe they want you to question things as Azula is questioning things.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Azula's not clear on it, and honestly, it's hard to tell. So they fight, Azula subdues Ty Lee, and the spirit asks, like, so, are you going to kill her? Azula's like, why would I do that? I'm just trying to figure out what you want.
The spirit is acting like a kind of frustrated DM.
Yes, frustrated dungeon master is very much, what...
Where it's like it's kind of putting too much emphasis on like what the player desires are. It's like you kind of have to make your own game at the core here.
Mm-hmm.
At least the framework of a story for the players to operate in. If you're just like, what do you want? Okay, here you go. It's kind of like, well, where's the game? Where's the adventure?
Yes. So, the spirit conjures another image of Ursa, who gives Azula a hug, and Azula's like, you ruined me. You chose Zuko over me. You saved him by helping to poison Grandfather Azulan, and then you left. You abandoned me. You weren't there to protect me from Dad. So I became what he wanted, his deadly fire-bending weapon. I didn't have a choice. If you'd just let Dad kill Zuko, you could have stayed with me. You could have protected me from him. I wouldn't be this. What are you, Azula? Alone. Betrayed. Betrayed over and over by my brother, my uncle, my friends, my acolytes. They should have been loyal to me to the very end, but they weren't. This is all your fault. So what you want most in the world is for those who broke your trust, your family, your friends, your acolytes, to return and ask for your forgiveness, for them to acknowledge that they hurt you and promise never to do so again. Then there's a panel of the spirit just kind of shrugging. Azula's like, yes, but it's not clear.
Mm-hmm.
And Ty Lee turns into a vision of May and says, I'm just recounting what happens in the whole story. I'm going to beat by beat here.
Yeah, as you said earlier, it's a bit of like, Azula... Do you think Azula realizes that, like, she kind of laid her own web here? That's her manipulating of Ursa way back when, in that the comic extended scene that you mentioned, is the kind of led to a world where Ozai was like her only parent.
Kind of, yeah. It is also on Ozai for like harboring that kind of impulse in Azula.
Of course, it's not like Azula brought this on herself. It's more of a Ozai raised Azula to act this way, so Azula, made it so it was only Ozai in the picture, and like it's a negative cycle.
Yes, and I'm only saying that because Azula was, 8 years old at the time.
Right.
So it's hard to really put a lot of blame on her there.
Absolutely.
So,
but yeah, it's kind of it definitely does what a lot of people in the fanon have been doing for a while. That they've been wanting this kind of story for Azula, because it's like it's not, she's not all, this isn't all her fault. She's it's a more sympathetic angle to take on her. This is something that one of the writers of the show, Aaron E. has claims that he wanted to do in a 4th season, kind of build a Azula redemption.
Well,
that this is hinting at.
Her story really isn't done by her defeat. That doesn't really finish the beginning, middle, end of it all.
No, if anything, that's the beginning of when she doesn't start to change until the last 6 episodes or so.
Yeah, nobody's like calling for an Ozai redemption arc.
Absolutely not. Yeah, there's nothing there.
So Ty Lee, who becomes May, and like at this point, who knows what is going on? Probably just a spirit vision again. But May says, "You're not the victim. There's something about you that makes people want to betray you because you're a terrible person who gets what she deserves."
Yeah.
Which,
so that's a lot of the like I said, that those her friends like turning on her. It's kind of where this change occurred. It started, and it goes back to like, what does Azula think of her friends think? And there you have it.
Yeah. So May turns back into Ty Lee, which further confuses, like, was May real? Was Ty Lee real, but May wasn't? Or what the fuck was happening? And so Azula chews her out, like, I found you when you were nothing. She kind of says the same thing she said to Zirin earlier, where it's like, I found you when you were nothing, and now you're just back to being a Kyoshi warrior, which is lame and dumb because you're not working for me. And this manifestation in front of her, because let's say that all of these characters besides Azula in here are just like puppets of the temple, basically, who works with this spider monk person.
Right.
And the temple says, you tell the people around you that they're nothing without you, that they can't survive without you. It turns from May into Zuko and just says, you surround yourself with people to manipulate and harm because you can't stand the idea of facing the world alone. Being alone would mean you've had to deal with all the horrible things you've done. The way you hurt the people who cared for you. You're alone, Azula. No one to blame but yourself. Will you ask for forgiveness? It says as it's this fucking monstrous version of Zuko with like a crazy furrowed, scaled brow and huge like Oni demon teeth. Like, it's scroll down to page 62. It is the funniest picture ever. Like, I want to use this as a reaction image. Like, maybe I'll put it in the Discord, but like, will you ask for forgiveness? Like, I'm just a friendly, regular guy. You know?
Yeah. No, that's it's an angry Zuko.
Yeah, Azula responds with lightning and says, no! As one does. And she's like, I see through your lies, spirit. I am finished with you. And the spirit says, very well, little Fire Lord, and then turns into this huge fucking centipede thing with little, like, tented, like, therapist hands. Like, build on that. Like, yeah, it's got its hands, like, folded and its fingers splayed in a very, like, tell me more about this fly, Allie.
It's a very understanding Giratina.
Yes, it is origin form Giratina from Pokemon and nothing else. Like,
yeah, Picture origin form Giratina from Pokemon Platinum. If you're not familiar, go play the game. So you can take a break, come back after that.
Man, we really run them ragged, Zuzu.
We put 100 hours worth of other content in the middle of our hour-long podcast.
It also reminds me of, and I only say this because I learned about this when I was like 12 when one of my big cryptid phases, and I don't know when else I'll ever get to say this, but it reminded me a bit of the Con Rit, which is a Vietnamese cryptid that is basically a giant centipede that lives in the ocean, which is a really unique flavor of sea monster, I think.
Yeah, it is.
That's kind of all there is to it. Doesn't have weird little therapist hands, though. Therapists have normal hands. I'm not trying to get canceled by therapists. That's a bad... That's not good for me.
So this... we've kind of gotten to the crux of the spirit monster here, where it's like, the spirit monster seems like it wants to be a therapist.
Yeah, it does. It says, like...
It seems like it wants to be a good therapist and give... But Azula's like... its first, like, patient.
It really does, yeah. So the Giratina says, my manifestations did not lie. This is a sacred place of peace and rest should you wish for those things. This temple is a crossroads for those who have followed the wrong path. It offers a second chance to choose for the better. You know who else offers a deal at the crossroads? Just saying.
Two knights. One only tells lies and the other only tells the truth.
No, the devil, Adam.
Oh, okay.
The devil, Zuzu. Look, hey, I am not a nicknames person. I've never been. I keep trying to make it happen and it never happens. This one's gonna stick. I'm gonna make it work. So, Giratina tells, it doesn't really have another name. So the temple spirit tells Azula, like, you were offered redemption and forgiveness, but you rejected what we had to give you. I take many forms, and it is your cruelty and desire for vengeance that has shaped me into this, a mirror of your own inner self. A monster. Azula says that redemption and apologies are for the weak. I owe nothing. I am Azula, daughter of Ozai the Phoenix King. I am the rightful Fire Lord, and I do not take kindly to meddling spirits. And then kills Giratina with lightning. And, the whole vision of the temple and the spirit kind of goes away in a whirlwind. And she's left in, like, the middle of the day in a clearing with her robe on a tree branch. And just says, no, it was all spirit tricks. None of it was real. And as she goes away, you see, like, a little tiny, like, foot-long version of the centipede spider kind of monster spirit.
It's like inchworm size at this point.
Yeah, it's cute. There's also a couple there's like some spider yokai that it reminds me of, like Jormungo. No, that's Jormungandr. What am I thinking of? Joragumo. That's what it is. That's pretty similar to Jormungandr. I see. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and so she hikes away and sees from afar the fire warriors.
Yeah, she tracks them down finally and sees Zirin and the away team bringing back Chiyu to the camp. And it's like, what did I say when we got out of prison? We'll always take after each other. We're family. We're never abandon you. We're family. Just like 2 panels of just real hardcore that shit. And then Azula's like staring down at them and is like, silly girls. Unworthy of my leadership. I'll find new followers. A new place to rule. I always do. So, the revenge, the lashing out, despite this therapy spirit's best efforts to fuck up, maybe it didn't all the way.
Yeah, maybe not. I do think this comic's a very interesting, it's a good pitch for, like, this, like I said, promised redemption for Azula.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's one of those things that, like, on paper, it's like, oh yeah, this is just what we want. But it's like, what would the character Azula say to that?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's precisely it, is that she would reject it wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Especially served on a silver platter.
Yeah, like, she says, like, I want to break down redemption and apologies are for the weak.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course she thinks that because she thinks of all, interactions as transactional.
Yeah, I think she also it's something to degrade Zuko with.
Yes.
She sees that like, oh, he thinks he redeemed himself, but he didn't do nothing.
So paying someone an apology is literally paying out of pocket for something.
Right.
So, I mean, what is redemption in this? Because redemption, I think, means, there's no such thing as a universal good and a universal evil.
Yeah, I think in like Avatar, The Last Airbender, redemption is going from a bad guy to a good guy.
Yes.
In the base form of the show. For Azula, what that would entail is to stop being a terrorist and be like a loving sister, I guess.
Yeah.
And there's, I guess, to me, it's one of those things where it's like, look, there's nothing. If Azula was a loving sister, there's no Azula left. There's nothing there.
I think that's the...
What would she become, a calculating war general? No, she'd go back to the asylum or be locked up in prison or some other thing like that. Like, what good route is there for her to go?
I think redemption can only happen in one other person's eyes at a time. And there are times where, like, many, many people share an opinion. Like, if someone's a murderer and then they decide not to murder people anymore, I think most people would be like, oh, good, that's a redemption. But if someone's like, I'm going to, like, I've supported the Mets all my life, but now I'm going to support the Philadelphia Phillies, I think Philadelphia Philly fans would view that as a redemption. We grew up in very sports-heavy households. We know how easy it is to fucking hook, America and Jesus and Donovan McNabb all on the same hat hook,
Yeah.
Yeah, like, you can, like, redemption in this case means following the political faction of Zuko, her brother, and the Avatar, and all them, and the future kind of founders of Republic City and all that, and not following Ozai or her own ambitions anymore because she's not fit for the throne despite her royal blood. She's kind of just a little too fucked up from the last Fire Lord who fucked her up too bad.
It's like there's X-Men movies where Magneto is like running a commune and stuff like that, where it's like, or he's like working a factory job with a family.
Yeah.
And it's like, those are all stories where it's like, oh, this feels like this villain is no longer a villain doing being a terrorist as she is in the top of the story. Instead, it's the most people would say that you've turned and are focusing your efforts on helping instead of hurting.
That's a great way of putting it. Yes, like Magneto didn't Magneto start Genosha? That might be wrong, but like I'm pretty sure he started just like an independent nation where mutants can be mutants and kids can be kids.
Yeah, right. I think something like that occurs, but it's like that is a good example of a redemptive story.
Charles Entertainment Xavier. Come to Xavier's Academy for Gifted Youngsters, where a kid can be a mutant.
I know, like, all the Five Nights at Freddy's guys have been joking about Chuck E. Cheese, like, animatronics forever, but I'm like, I'm trying to cross the streams. I'm like, are those mutants? Is there one kid? One who's, like, shitty mutant power? Is he can control, like, robots?
There's that one who's, like, a remote.
Yeah, oh, he's running Charles Entertainment Xavier's new school.
Yeah, for sure. But anyway, I think that's a great way for Azula to find redemption down the line, is to, like, she has this profound need, like, she's very hardwired to be part of something greater, and right now she's just kind of in the wind, like, she's not a part of anything bigger than herself, and she doesn't know despite, like, all of her protestations that she's the best and she's the greatest, like, she doesn't know how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she doesn't know how to not be in charge of anything or be a part of something bigger.
To me, I think it's some kind of, like, clean slate is what she needs. And I think if this therapist spirit might kind of is what what they're trying to get at this whole time. It's the, like, you have unresolved issues. You are not happy, you are not healthy, you are not, like, you have all these people in your past that are haunting you. Regardless of what the present's happening here, this is all this baggage that you have. And they're trying to, I guess, they're trying to cheat codes, like, really quick solve this baggage.
Yeah, because, like, in real life, if, like, you know, it's like, what if this is, like, structurally, like, what if, like, a bad guy, what if, like, Darth Vader, how do we redeem Darth Vader? What if a magic pixie comes down and says, Darth Vader, you've been naughty, and touches him with his magic wand, and then he has white armor, and he's like, I love my kids, and, like, that's...
I'm a dad!
That's not true! That's impossible!
Come here, son.
No! Oh yeah, that's true. Darth Vader is Azula's grandfather. Mark Hamill voices Ozai, and he does the Mark Hamill villain voice.
Yeah, as he does.
Yeah. Yes, the weak. Bleh.
But yeah, I think that's it, and I think Azula's, like, has a proper reaction to this radical therapy.
Yeah, like...
Which is I'm not gonna change overnight, which is what the spirit's literally trying to get her to do, change overnight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's like, I am not going to alter that quickly. I need time, I need space, I need my own people, I need my own pace. Which
that's what she means. What she says is, like, fuck you, no.
Right, yeah, but that's, I guess that's the healthiest response, even though she has a loud rejection. I do want to say that Azula, I think, from these comic stories, she has a bit of like a Silver Surfer problem. Where she is like, the writers of them have to say, like, this is an important character. She can't be a full hero like the good guys, and she shouldn't be treated as, like, a cackling villain like Ozai. She's more complicated, there's more levels here, and I think they're struggling with how to utilize her. Because I think having a group of, like, having her find, like, a party, a group like the Fire Warriors, to pal up with and gang up with, pal around with, and then immediately saying, like, okay, all that work that we did in Smoke and Shadow and lead up to this, yeah, wipe that clean. She departs from them. She's back on her lonesome. It's kind of tough for her to build any kind of long-standing relationship.
Kind of, yeah. Well, she doesn't know how to trust anyone. She was taught that, like, she was taught that loyalty is absolute, and she was taught that, she ultimately learned, I think, that loyalty doesn't buy you anything, and that trust is a myth that people make up to manipulate other people.
I guess what I'm saying is that I could see this as, like, the last Azula story.
It's not done, though.
I guess not. But if in like what I'm thinking of as a silver lining for the character, like if they were saying, like, if they're trying to find a way to say, like, okay, this is it's kind of like Kylo Ren rules, where it's like, all right, we can't give a full redemption, so best we can say is, like, oh, she has a change of heart at the end a little bit, and then she goes off to find her own people somewhere. She's kind of running into the sunset. But I'm curious, what are your thoughts on what the next Azula story could be?
The sentence, "You're alone, Azula," was said quite a bit in this, too, even though she never, exactly was. But I think she needs to find people that she can treat as peers and equals, so that, like, she can be part of something, and that she can confront these things about themselves. And much as Ursa had, that scene where she goes back to the Fire Nation palace and she, she walks into Ozai's cell and Ozai's like, well, Ursa, you've returned despite the fact that I said I would kill you next time I see you. Blah, 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 blah. I'll take away everything. So blah, blah, blah. And Ursa's just like, you know what? You're very small and you need to feel big. That's nice, dear. Goodbye. And then she never talks to him again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's like mother, like daughter, in that Azula needs to strike out and find, like, she's going to strike out and look for new followers and a new place to rule. And I think if she can find, like, peers instead, like, that might be enough to sort of create this desire that has nothing to do.
I think I know what you're getting at. It's almost like I said, clean slate. It's like she can't keep bumming around the Fire Nation, like, being this little this fly around Zuko's head. I think, like, and of course in this world it's like, all right, yeah, well, there's no air nomad place anymore, and the water tribe is like one city. So I think it's almost like she has to go somewhere that no one knows her name, like the Earth Kingdom or something like that. Some like fresh territory, some place she's never been before.
Which is very Zuko alone.
I was gonna say very Zuko alone, very like season 2 Zuko, like a whole new, like a land you've never been in. You're a stranger here, and there's some humbling that goes on that kind of journey.
Yeah, it's like she needs an ambition that isn't like the throne or just turning Zuko into a monster. She needs to learn about, maybe she needs to realize that she's been manipulated and just kind of like be put on the other end of that equation for once.
Yeah.
And I think now that she's alone and now that she doesn't have like anyone around her for the first time really ever, I think that like now is a perfect time for a larger spider to strike and catch this smaller spider in its web. Is that how spiders work? I have a degree in spiders. What am I talking about? I caught a fly just a bit ago.
Yeah. I guess there's room for a lot of new stories, but it is one that's like, it's very, I would like to see an Azula story that isn't reliant on her connection to all these other characters.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's new territory for her to go and travel on. Like I said, we don't know anything without her, like, without her bending, without her, like, her personality traits. There's no, what is Azula without all this stuff?
Yeah, was this...
maybe it's not Azula alone. Maybe we need, like, a duck amuck with Azula. Like, what else is there to her? I know, but you get into a bit of a revisionist history there. You get into, like, a bit of a, okay, well, how much can you take away from Azula until it's no longer the character that people like?
Well, let's break that down. What do we like about her? Do we like that she's broken and terrible?
Well, I think people like Azula for her ruthlessness.
She can be ruthless in pursuit of some other goal.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to involve murder.
That's a good point. If she becomes a really passionate, banker, she becomes an industrialist.
Okay, you picked a terrible choice for a morally neutral career.
What's a passion that you can think of?
Like, I was thinking just like, I don't know, maybe she just does the universal queer thing and is like, I'm going to start a cafe in a bookshop, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like that dream that everybody has. Just create a better world around her, but first she has to change her opinion of what a better world is. Because again, she is like 16 in this comic book.
Yeah, she's got a lot of time to figure things out.
I didn't have my shit that together when I was 16.
Yeah, I think you could be like a manipulated child soldier up until 16, and then, I don't know, clock another 4-6 years and go in an entirely different direction.
Yeah, which, like, she was 14 in the series, she's like 16 now, and, like, it was interesting because the show came on when I was like 10. So I've been younger than Azula, the same age as Azula, and older than Azula over the course of my life. And, like, when I was little, I think I was afraid of her. When I was her age, I think I had a crush on her. Now that I'm older than her, I kind of, like, see her as, like, I can help, like, I can be a therapist. But what I'm not going to do is just spring therapy on you. Because, like, this whole time, I was thinking about just, like, the Office quote of, like...
As it turns out, you can't just check someone into rehab against their will. They have to do it voluntarily.
Yeah, it's kind of, I think that's a good way to put her character.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think that matches what a lot of fans feel like in these, like, you're a cool character, but now it's a, like, she's just a girl.
Yeah.
She's just a teenage girl that grew up in the wrong family.
I was just an average teenage girl. Until I became indoctrinated as a child soldier.
Now the government's after me.
My friends think it's cool.
My brother thinks I'm an science experiment.
All I know is I can't trust anyone. Not even my parents. I guess I'm not so average anymore.
Alright, well, let's take the spirits to the final rating place.
I wanted to say that, like, having a crush on Azula as a teenager is, like, that's a real sign of just not a mentally healthy crush, right?
Listen, I had plenty of crushes on the ladies of the Avatar series. Azula was not on my list.
Really?
No. I think I'd put just about everyone else on there. Besides, like, Azula and May.
Huh. That's weird, because I never went for, like, Katara or anything like that, or, even any of the guys, either. I was very just focused. Well, except Jet. But besides that, everybody has a crush on Jet. You had a crush on Jet. Admit it. Anyway. Yeah, but no. I'm glad that I'm past that crush, obviously, because I'm much older than her now, and that she'll never be the same age as me again. Right?
Sorry, one sec. I don't know. They're coming up with a new they're coming up with a new animated film that takes place with the adult gang, and I'm struggling to come up with an antagonist for them to go up against. People are suspicious that I wonder if Azula's going to come into the fray for that.
Oh God, I'm in so much trouble. I'm in danger.
Now can we go to the final rating place?
Yeah, I'm gonna fucking regress, which, as I've demonstrated over the course of this episode, is bad for me. I don't know if I can watch this movie. Oh no. Final rating place. I think this is not a good therapist. I think, like you said, Azula might be, like, her first patient.
Yeah, the, like, patient number one, or, like, just read a bunch of books about therapy from Wan Shi Tong's library.
Just like...
It's like, oh, I got this.
Yeah. Like, you are not a licensed therapist. You cannot give people therapy just by, like, by them just, like...
And also, Azula is not a round one therapy.
Oh my God,
like,
yeah.
she is a level 3 therapy project.
And there are only 2 levels. Like,
yeah, right.
Yeah, no, this centipede bit off way more than it could chew.
Mm-hmm.
This therapist needs a therapist, which is true for all therapists, really. Like, they see each other and stuff.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, like, therapists see other therapists, and it's a thing. It's like, well, just like a doctor has a human body, and they have to go to the other doctors at some point. They can't just doctor themselves. That's crazy.
Yeah, the spirit therapist needs to go to her own spirit therapy to kind of learn, like, oh, that's how I'm supposed to do this.
Yeah.
Is this supposed to take a time? I'm a spirit. Why am I in a rush?
That's a great point, yeah. Which we have, as we've established, the therapist in the spirit world / the Feywild, which is the same place, I guess, / is Treebeard.
Tell me about this picture. What do you see?
That's Treebeard. That's just a blank piece of paper.
This is my friend.
Good joke. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna give her 3 out of 5 stars. No, like 2 out of 5 stars. Her heart's in the right place, but 1 out of 5 stars. 0 out of 5 stars.
3 out of 10 from me. Like, of all the spirits, you kind of, I think this is a young one that needs to get their act together. I think they need to get that kind of Wan Shi Tong mileage, collect a couple more works, and meet up with us in a couple thousand years.
Yeah, I think improvement is possible for this spirit, if she just keeps doing what her doing, but if doesn't sorry, my brain is broken today. If she just keeps doing what she is doing, she will eventually succeed. But this time, she bit off way more than she could chew, and also, like the Michael Scott quote, like, you can't just check someone into rehab. That's true. You can't, like, that's not how it works. You can't go to. It's like if you tried to give out vaccinations as like a nurse or something by just jabbing people on the street. Like, that's not how it works, babe.
I agree. It's not the proper approach for that.
No, you gotta spread it through the 5G. Anyway.
Thank you for joining us for 5 Gs of Avatar.
Only drink water from the top of your toilet tank.
If you want to hear more of our nonsense, you can find us on our Discord, or tune in for our next episode. Share the show with a friend if you'd liked it.
Yeah, and also, drink from a toilet tank.
Any last Azula words to take us home with?
It's okay. You can laugh. It's funny.